Dear students, in the sequence of History of Fashion, India, Ancient and Modern, today we will study Maurya and Sunga period fashion history. The Sunga Empire was an ancient Indian Brahmin dynasty from Magadha that controlled vast areas of the Indian subcontinent from around 187 to 78 BCE. The dynasty was established by Pushyamitra Sunga, after the fall of the Maurya Empire. Its capital was Pataliputra, but later emperors such as Bhagabhadra also held court at Bisnagar, modern Vidisha, in eastern Malwa. Pushyamitra Sunga ruled for 36 years and was succeeded by his son Agnamitra. They fought the Kalinga, the Satavahana dynasty, the Indo-Greek kingdom and possibly the Panchalas and Matharas. Art, education, philosophy, and other forms of learning flowered during this period, including small terracotta images, larger stone sculptures, and architectural monuments such as the stupa at Bharat, and the renowned Great Stupa at Sanchi. Mauryan dynasty, 320 to 185 BC, Antrayam, which they used to wear as a lower garment. A cloth was covered in ledanga style around the hips to form a tubular skirt. Made of cotton, linen or muslin and decorated with gemstone. It is fastened at the center of the waist tied in a looped knot. An embellished long piece of cloth, hanging at the front, wrapped around the waist is pleated into the antaraya is called patka. Clothing. Ladies often used to wear an embroidered fabric waistband with drum-headed knots at the ends. As an upper garment, was uttaraya, a long scarf. The difference existed only in the manner of wearing. Sometimes, its one end is thrown over one shoulder and sometimes it is draped over both the shoulders. Women tied their antaraya in different ways. Originally opaque, it later became more and more transparent. A simple small antaraya or strip of cloth, langoti, was attached to the kayaband at the center front, and then passed between the legs and tucked in at the back. A longer version of the antaraya was the knee-length one, being first wrapped around and secured at the waist, the longer end then pleated and tucked in at the front, and the shorter end finally drawn between the legs, cactus style, and tucked in at the waist at the back. Men, the main garment was the antaraya of white cotton, linen or flowered muslin, sometimes embroidered in gold and precious stones. For men, it was an unstitched length of cloth draped around the hips and between the legs in the cactus style, extending from the waist to the calf or ankles, or worn even shorter by peasants and commoners. The antaraya was secured at the waist by a sash or kaya band, often tied in a looped knot at the center front of the waist. The kaya band could be simple sash, vethaka, one with drum-headed knot at the ends, Maurya, a very elaborate band of embroidery, flat and ribbon shape, pataka, or a many-stringed one, kalabuka. Headgear and hairstyle. Women generally covered their heads with the uttaraya, worn straight or crosswise, often resplendent with beautiful borders. The hair, centrally parted, was made into one or two plaits or in a large knot at the back. The uttaraya could be worn simply hanging down at the back or secured to the head with a headband, or with one end arranged in a fan at the top of the head. Skull caps were sometimes worn under or over the uttaraya to keep it in place, or at times it could be decorated with a fringe or pendants. Helmets too are seen as headgear for Phrygian women, who probably wore long-sleeved tunic with tight-fitting trousers and a Phrygian cap which was conical and had ear flaps. In India, the Amazons wore in addition the crossed chest belt vaikakshaw, with metal buckles, shield, and sword. Men. As regards male headgear, in the early Mauryan period there is no trace of the turban molai, but in the Sunga period we find great emphasis on this form of male headdress. These were remarkable headdresses in which the hair itself was often twisted into a braid along with the turban cloth. This twisted braid was then arranged to form a protuberance at the front or the side of the head, but never at the center top, as only priests could use this style. Over the turban a band was sometimes used to hold it in place. In addition, decorative elements like a jeweled brooch or a jailer could be attached to the turban, or one end folded in pleats and tucked in like a fan. Military costume. Sewn garments which had been used by the Persian soldiers were sometimes utilized for military dress by the Mauryans. This consisted of a sleeved tunic with cross straps across the chest to carry the quiver, and a leather belt with sword. The lower garment was more often the Indian antaraya rather than the Persian trousers. The headgear was usually the turban or headband, whereas the Persians had worn the pointed cap. The mixture of foreign and indigenous garments is interesting as it shows one of the early phases of evolution in the costumes of Indians. This came about in the colder north, where the Persian garments were more suitable, climatically and functionally, in case of soldiers. Although coats of mail are mentioned in the Arthashastra, there is no visual evidence of it in this period. Women wore salari, 7-stringed necklace, mekarla, 6-stringed necklace, klari, 5-stringed necklace, cholari, 4-stringed necklace, tilari, 3-stringed necklace, kantha, short necklace, kanika to Buddhists, earring in form of triratna or triple gem or Buddhist triad, picula, batna, kanika, armlets of serpent shape, trumpet-shaped earrings, bajra band, simple leaf pattern bangle. The material used most frequently were gold and precious stones like corals, rubies, sapphires, agates, and crystals. Pearls too were used and beads of all kinds were plentiful, including those made of glass. Certain ornaments were common to both sexes, like earrings, necklaces, armlets, bracelets, and embroidered belts. Earring or karnaka were of three types: a simple ring or circle called kandala, a circular disc earring known as dere, and earrings with a flower-like shape known as karnafule. Textile weaving of fine and coarse varieties of cloth was well established. Cotton, silk, wool, linen and jute fabrics were readily available. Furs and the better varieties of wool and silk like tussar, called kaushiya mugo silk of Assam, yellowish in its natural color but when bleached called patrona, were used. Kasi yaka, high-quality cotton or silk, and the bright red woolen blankets of Gandhara were worth a small fortune each. A rain-proof woolen cloth was available in Nepal. Resist dyeing and hand-printing in a pattern on cloth has been mentioned by Greek visitors to the court of Chandragupta Maurya, as is the Indian glazed cotton cloth which was in common use by 400 BC. Material similar to the kinkwab, which is the interweaving of silk and gold or silver wires, beautiful floral pattern, was in great demand and even exported to Babylon long before the Mauryas. Cotton, wool and a fabric called karpasa were available in the north in both coarse and fine varieties. There were also fine muslins often embroidered in purple and gold and transparent like late-day material which came to be called shabnam, morning dew. The coarse varieties were used by the populace. Woolen cloth, avika, from the sheep's wool was either pure white, bleached, or dyed pure red, rose, or black. Blankets or kambala were either made by completing the edges with borders or braids, or woven wall strips were joined together. The process of felting, pressing the fibers together, instead of weaving, was also making known. All varieties of wool were available, coarse for making headdresses, trappings and blankets for richer class. Washermen were also dyers, rajaka, and they perfumed garments after washing them. Four primary colors were recognized in the dyeing of textiles: red, dyed with safflower and madder; white, through bleaching; yellow, natural color of yarn and saffron; and blue, indigo leaves. Fabrics were also woven in patterns and printed for use as carpets, bed covers, blankets, and clothes.